Welcome, everyone. Natalie here today. Great topic, and I know it interests all parents. It's about how to get our kids to listen to us without so much struggle. And we've all been there when our kids are either not responding when we've asked them to do something, or we've told them not to do something. And we've suggested things that would be good for them, but alas, it seems like impossible that they're not hearing us or they are ignoring us, or perhaps we are believing that they're trying to just annoy us and irritate us. So what is really going on there? Because a lot of times these situations don't feel good. We also, if we get dysregulated, we don't feel good, they don't feel good, and it can end up in a lot of chaos, in a lot of energy being spent and wasted and not resolved after those situations or circumstances happen. So I'm going to start with these trainings that I'm doing. It's never to blame parents, because I'm a parent myself, and that's not my intention. And if some things upset you or trigger you that I'm saying, perhaps spend some time with it and ask yourself, what is this upsetting me right now? What's coming up for me? And you can always reach out to me and we can have a discussion about it. I do not take things personally, but if there is something that's upsetting you about what I'm saying, maybe getting clarification on there, and I would be happy to help. So I want to come out and make this clear that my intention is not to blame you as a parent, but more I'm sharing this information with you so that we can parent better as a collective, without blaming, without judging, but how can we help ourselves and our children? And that's my intention. How can we parent better, and how can that benefit not only our children but ourselves as well? So with this topic, if you suspect that your child has a hearing problem, and that's why the child, if you're asking them many times to do something, that's why they're not responding, and you're suspecting that could be the case, then please get that checked out to ensure that if that's the case, that you can give your child the help that they need sooner than later. So that out of the way, why then do our children not listen? So one thing also that I want to ask you is, do you think that your child wakes up in the morning and decides on purpose not to listen to you today? That may sound ridiculous right now, but I can tell you that no child wakes up in the morning and say, I'm simply not going to listen to my parents. That's not the case. However, the environment that the child is in can influence these type of behaviors. And I'm going to share with you what may be going on, and also to understand your child, what is really going on with your child when they are not listening. And if you can see that perspective, because until we can put ourselves in their shoes, it becomes very difficult to have the compassion and understanding of why they are acting the way they are acting. So the true reasons then why they may not be listening is, let's take the example of today. I've invited you to come on this training, and when you received the invite or you saw the invite, what was going on in your mind? What made you show up today or listen to the replay, for that matter, if you're listening to the replay? If few questions that you may have asked yourself is this information going to be useful to me or not? Why would I want to attend? And so you're weighing the cost and the benefit of taking your time to actually listen to me. And is that going to be helpful to you? And if you perceive that, okay, that may be helpful to me, maybe I've tried different things and it hasn't worked, and I'm curious to know what Natalie has to say, or I get an intuition that says I should attend or I should listen to the replay. Those are the things that is going on within you. And the same thing happens with our children. When we're asking them to do something, the same kind of question may be going on in their head. However, it's important to know that our children look at the world differently than we do, simply because they don't have the experience, they don't have the maturity and the brain development that we have as adults. So their perception of the world and our perception of the world completely different. Our world is much more complex and bigger than their little world. And so first thing we want to ask ourselves is, when we are saying something to our child and they're not listening, are we speaking the same language that our children can understand? Because if the child does not see or understand the benefit or the urgency or the impact of what we are asking them, maybe they don't say, okay, that's not important to me, or I can do this later, whatever the case may be. And so they don't listen. Remember that kids, they live in the present moment. They go from moment to moment. As adults, a lot of us, that's what we want. We say, I want to be more present. Well, children are present. They don't think about what's going to happen in 2 hours or tonight or tomorrow or next week. They don't think about that as much as we do. So they live in the present, and they have no concept of responsibility planning or meeting deadlines like we do. We have so many roles and responsibilities that things have to be done at a certain time. They don't have that, because simply they have not developed the habit and the skill, and they don't have that need because they're still young. And so we are educating them, we are helping them by setting up routines every day. This is when we have breakfast, this is when we start our schoolwork, this is when you go to school, this is when it's playtime, when it's nap time, and so on and so forth. We are educating them and we're helping them throughout the years as they're growing up to understand and to also create the habit and the skill to be able to meet the deadlines that we have as adults. But when they're little, that's not important to them. So when we move a child towards certain activities, we want them to clean their room, the playroom. We want them to help out with putting their things away, or to eat dinner at a certain time and to finish at a certain time. And we push that upon them. Those activities perhaps are not interesting them at the moment. And when we push that upon them, it's kind of abrupt. And we bring that on. And that's where we may see the resistance, because in their little mind, they're like, I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to eat right now because playing is more important to me. And we'll see why playing may be more important to a child if they're not hungry yet, or they're not tired yet to go rest, take a nap, or go to bed. So then they can have a meltdown. There can be a blow up. because they're not ready to do what you're asking them to do. So this is why it's important that we have routines, and a lot of times the routine helps their little mind remember when we do some things, it's playtime, when it's eat time, and the body get adjusted to the habit and they get used to it. And over time, then there's less resistance and they cooperate better. Most of the time, there may be sometimes when they're not wanting to do that, and that's okay as well. So our little ones also live on the pleasure principle. Why is that? Is because they lack impulse control. Children will seek instant gratification because they are in the present moment. So whatever is going to make them feel good in this moment is what they're going to chase after. That makes more sense to them. So that's why if they're playing and you're asking them to go clean up, in their little mind, they may think, okay, why would I go want to clean up? Because cleaning up is boring, playing is more fun, so I want to keep playing. And that's what you're up against. So then it's important to know that about your child, that the pleasure principle is stronger. And they don't have the impulse control to stop the pleasure and go do something else. So in the way that you will approach them when you are wanting them to do something or not to do something for that matter, is how can you appeal more to the pleasure or not bypass the pleasure that they're having. So sometimes giving them a warning, in half an hour, we're going to stop playing, and that's what we're going to do. And we're going to do this because whatever your reason is. And so you give them the time, and it's not abrupt, and it's not imposed on right away. So they can continue having their pleasure time, knowing that it's coming to an end. And children, when they're little, also they're testing their boundaries, right? So that's what's going on a lot of time when they're repeatedly doing something we have said, don't do it. They want to know, if I throw the toy, what's going to happen? How are you going to react? And let me do it again and again and again and see how far they can go with that until you respond to them in a way that they know they should stop. And sometimes they'll do it because we're not clear, perhaps, and our tone of voice is not firm enough. So with children, the less convoluted the directions are, the easier for them to understand. So having short, clear instruction and firm instruction work better than, please, maybe can you clean your room in this afternoon? That's very kind of wishy-washy. It doesn't command them to know that it's when you want to do it and that you want them to do it. It's a kind of maybe if kind of thing. So this is also going on, especially for little ones. And children as young as 2, they will start to want to say no to you because that's how they're starting to develop their willpower. And who is the safest person they can say no to? Parents, because parents are the people that they feel safe and they want to see, can I say no to you? And the attachment is not threatened. The attachment that I have with you will not be threatened. So that's why you can see that they'll say no to you. no, I don't want to do this. And they want to see how you're going to respond. What happens when they say no? So in those cases, it's important to give choices. So we don't also kind of do not allow them to say no or to test their boundaries, because that's part of their development, and we want that to still happen. Because if that part of their brain do not continue to develop, then later on they'll have trouble saying no. They have trouble also to take risk, to try new things. They may become very risk averse and also become people pleasers because they can't say no. So we don't want that to happen. And so how can we now allow them to test their boundaries and also learn to develop their own willpower? So by giving them choices and giving them warnings, right? Like if they are throwing a toy and they keep throwing the toy, they're not listening, using this firm voice, it doesn't have to be loud, and maybe ask them, if your brother threw the toy towards you, would you like that? And let them come to their own resolution and senses. And obviously your child will say, no, I wouldn't like that. Why? Why would you like that? I can get hurt and I don't want to get hurt. Well, do you want to, if you keep throwing this toy towards somebody, what can happen? And that's how you help the child understand and know that it's important to do that when the child is calm. There's no point of doing it when they are not regulated. And also the boundary, the willpower, it's about allowing them to say no. And you can make it clear, if you say no to this, this is going to be the result. What do you want? And work a compromise with them. So that's another step of, the kind of foundation we want to start setting up. But those are the reasons why a child may not be listening. Are we speaking the same language that they can understand us? Because often they're not seeing eye to eye with us. They don't see the benefit, the urgency, the impact, because children live in the present moment. And we need to bring things into perspective for them so they understand where we're coming from. Another one is they tend to live on the pleasure principle more so because they lack the impulse control. Third thing, children are testing their boundaries and developing their willpower, and we still want to promote that. And how do we promote it in a way that we are also helping them to understand the behaviors that may not be suitable? So those are the things that are happening with a child, that they're not listening. And most often that's what's happening. And the other point is that a lot of times when kids are not listening or they're misbehaving, they're having the tantrums over and over and over again. It's happening every day. It's the same thing. And the behaviors are getting worse. Then it's a signal that there's something deeper. And that something deeper often has to do with their needs that are not being met. And so I'm going to dive right into the components of the foundation required for our children to listen. First of all is the connection with our children. And that is very important, and that has to do with their needs. Asking yourself if your child is misbehaving all the time and having many tantrums and always saying no to you and putting up a lot of resistance, ask yourself, does my child feel seen, heard, and understood by me? And if they do not feel seen, heard, and understood, they won't feel safe either. And how does a child then perceive that we are seeing them, hearing them, and understanding them? A lot of that has to do with the senses. So it's nothing complicated. You may think about, how do I know if my child feels seen, heard, and understood by me now? Well, how do you speak to a child? What kind of tone of voice do you use when you are asking them to do something? Are you calm? You can be firm and calm. Or are you dysregulated, angry, and yelling at them when you ask them to do something? Are you making eye contact, especially with a little child? Sometimes they may not understand the words, but if we make eye contact with them, then they may tune in better. Does my child want physical touch? Maybe your child responds better when they feel that touch, they feel the close proximity of their parent. Am I communicating in a clear, short, and precise way? Specifying the time, the importance, the urgency of what you are asking them. So making that connection with the child is key every time we connect. And if we're not connecting, meaning that if we are only talking to them when we are dysregulated, when there's something off with us, they may not be feeling the connection. So very important to ask yourself that. How are you connecting with your child every day? And you'll know that you're connecting because you'll see less of those behaviors, less of the resistance. Because when they feel seen, heard, and understood, then they don't need to act it out. And often that's what happens when children are misbehaving, having tantrums. It's because they don't feel understood. They don't feel like we are understanding what's going on with them. And that call for help from you will show up in the behaviors, and often not listening. Because if you're not listening to them, why would they listen to you? Ask yourself that. So very important to be giving clear instructions as well, direct instruction, not wishy-washy, and to create that connection. And it's easier when our children are younger. I can tell you that because now I have a teenager and he wants to be his own now. And it's more difficult to get through a teenager than to get through a toddler. And just know that the work you do when they're little is going to reap the benefit later on when they become teenagers. There will be less of that resistance. So number 2 foundation is you can't ask the child to do something that you won't do. Say you want the child to clean their space and you're not cleaning your space, the child sees that. And usually what the child do will mirror the behavior of the adult. If you're not listening to them, they're not going to listen to you either. They don't feel heard. They're not going to listen. And also, the do what I say does not work anymore. If you haven't figured this out now, do what I say don't work. If you mirror the example, that will help them. Because children learn subconsciously by watching us. Right? They will see, how does mom react? And if we become dysregulated, they will also have more meltdowns. When we get angry at them and we lose it, well, when they get angry, guess what they're going to do? They're going to repeat the same behavior. So managing our expectations also. Just like I mentioned before, that we think that they're seeing the world the same way as we do. You can see the urgency of doing something, the importance of what we are asking them, and so on. But they may not have that skill to meet this expectation because they can't see it the same way. So this is where we educate them and we help them, such as how to manage their time. We establish this routine and then they learn through the routine, and also do the things with them, right? So mirror it. If we want them to clean their room, maybe we do it with them a few times. And so they learn the skill. And also they feel like, okay, we're being supported. It's not just me having to do it. She or he is helping me to do what they're asking me to do. And then later on, when they can do it on their own, they'll know exactly and they'll say, okay, yeah, I can do this. I will do it. Be proactive and not reactive. So use words to connect. Don't wait. Tell the situation. Connect and listen to the child. Be empathic. Use your intuition. When you're seeing certain behaviors happening, when they're not upset or agitated, or they're not resisting, you can approach them and say, hey, I notice you are doing this more and more. Why is that? Or I heard you say this to your brother. Why are you using these words? How are you feeling? Or I understand that you're finding this difficult. Or I feel that you're upset with so and so, or you're upset with whatever you were doing. So having that curiosity and clarify with them, understand them, and they will open up if you are approaching it in a way that you're genuinely wanting to connect. Again, that connection that you're making the effort to do, to connect with them. Tell me more about what you're feeling. And then they'll open up and then you can understand them better. If they're closed off, don't push it. Wait until they can open up. And that sometimes take a little bit of effort depending on the age of your child. If they're older, it's going to take a little bit more time to establish that connection. When they're little, it can be very easy. Collaborate for them to cooperate. So if you come at them all the time, then it may feel like it's one-sided. Instead, if you are genuinely curious, then they can open up and express to you what they're feeling and why they're doing the thing they're doing, what they're not responding to you, and why they're not wanting to do what you're asking them. And so come at it from a point of view of collaboration instead of imposing. And that opens up the communication. You can give them your perspective as an adult, and you're like, I have some concern when you keep hurting your brother. What is it? What is coming up when you hurt him? What is painful for you that you need to hurt him? And then you can start this kind of conversation that then opens up the possibility of collaboration, of coming with a mutual compromise of how they can express what they're feeling to you instead of ignoring you when you're asking them to do or not to do something. Okay. And it's important for parents to realize if we find ourselves reacting whenever they're not listening to us, what is that bringing up for us? Because if we also react and we behave in a certain way towards them when they're not listening, especially in those formative years when they're still little, this can have a positive or negative impact on their life. So remember that to be the change that you want to see in them, taking time to understand them and to understand yourself. If you're getting very dysregulated because you're not listening, it's not just about them, because there may be different behaviors. Maybe today, this week, they don't listen. Tomorrow, this could be something else. And the next time, there'll be another thing. So if you keep responding and using behaviors that you know is not helping you or helping them, then it's important that you look with it and understand yourself. What happens when my child is not listening to me? What is that bringing up with me? Why do I get so angry? Why do I yell? Why do I shout? Why do I punish? Why do I isolate them? Because most of that probably stems from your own unmet needs. And over and over and over again, when I'm helping parents, this is what's happening. And I know for myself as well, when I discovered that and work on healing that for myself, then I can attune to my child. Then I can be more compassionate. Then I don't take it personally when they're not listening to me. But it brings up more of a curiosity. Why are you not listening to me? Why are you not wanting to do what I'm asking you to do? Or why do you keep doing the things that is harmful instead? Then we can approach it differently. It's about shifting our perspective, but the only way we can shift that perspective is to understand, what is my child feeling right now? And it's also challenging to understand our children if we don't understand ourselves. So that's the start of things. Understanding yourself, what comes up for you when they're not listening, and then turn that around and helping them when they're not wanting to listen and understand what is missing. What is it that they need from you that they're not getting? Am I misunderstanding them? Am I not seeing them? And so this is an ongoing thing as parents. But you can get there if you, again, I'm telling you this because until we do the work, it's very, very difficult to respond with calm and confidence towards our children. We are always going to find ourselves in a battle and not feeling good And in that cycle of us getting angry and reacting to them instead of mending, instead of helping each other, especially helping our children, being there for them, giving them what they need so they can mature, their brain can develop. And then everything starts to get easier. Because children, all they want, again, is their needs to be met. Their needs to be seen, heard, validated, understood, so they can feel safe. When they feel safe, they can continue to grow. Their brain can continue to develop as it should because there's safety. If we are dysregulated and we get angry at them every time something happens that we don't like, there's no safety there. When there's no safety, it changes how their brain develops. And then we start to see the impact of that, the secondary effect. And so it starts with us. And that's the message I'm sending you today. If you have any questions with regards to how can you do that work, my Emotion Control Accelerator program has been designed by me for just that, to help parents understand themselves, especially when we are dysregulated, we're triggered, and we are reacting. You can do it. It's not a long process. It's 90 days of very effective work. And I'm here by your side all the time, helping you do this work. Because I've been there, I've done it, and I've helped many, many parents also do the same thing. So if you have any questions or you're curious about how you can help your children to not only listen to you, but also to create the kind of environment that's going to help you and your children thrive, reach out to me and I'll be happy to see if you're a good match for the program or not. So take care, everyone. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in from wherever you are, and watch out for my next video. Bye-bye.